began in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when Hartford was known as the Low River Town, sitting along beside the Connecticut River. Hartford's industries, which included banking, publishing, insurance, and also manufacturing companies. The population had doubled in size from 1850 to 1860. Things were going good for Hartford, but there were also problems that were beginning to arise. There was a growth in crime, poverty. But one of the biggest things that had become in Hartford was the river was being polluted and also the air from the waste that was being dumped into the river by manufacturing companies and industry. Bushnell Park is the first public park opened not only to Connecticut but also in the world. The man that presented this idea was Reverend H. Bushnell. Bushnell had made history even before it was created, being the first park to be paid for full by public funds. Business did not want to waste perfect taxable property to make a public funded park. There were many things that kept people from wanting to live in Hartford. Part of it was that the area that is now Bushnell, it was nothing but industrial waste site. It also had a sewage current running through the space and into the river itself. It was Reverend Bushnell and others that kept the park dream alive. October 1853, the City Council voted to spend $105,000 of public funds to buy the land that was to become Bushnell Park. 6 years later, and the park still hadn't made any progress from before. Reverend Bushnell asked Frederick L. Olmsted, the designer of Central Park, to design Bushnell, but he was too busy designing Central Park still. He recommended the city to hire Jacob Wedeman, a landscape architect. The year 1859. Jacob Wedeman selected 157 different varieties of trees, shrubs, and flowers, creating a canopy of green and other shades of color covering the area of Bushnell. There have been many changes in Bushnell that have been added and removed. Wedeman built several wonderful bridges that went over the Park River to create almost a scenic view. The destruction of River Park was the biggest change in Bushnell. It was created in 1854. The river entered Bushnell. It followed along the park's north side. There were 5 bridges that once crossed the river. The one that was left standing was the Brownstone Bridge near the Soldier and Sailor Memorial Arch. People had used the river as a source of energy to power mills and factories. At the time, it wasn't so bad, but years later, it became a problem polluting the river. It didn't stop there. People started dumping industrial waste into the river. At once, the clean river became a murky, polluted wasteland. 1836 through 1938. The Great Flood happened, leaving Hartford several feet under water, costing several hundreds of thousands of dollars. Lives had been lost and homes too, but also the destruction of Park River. But still, part of it remains in its memory. Throughout the years, many things have been added in Bushnell, such as the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Arch, which was added in 1886, the Capitol Building, which was added in 1876, the Corning Fountain, which is added in 1899, the Carousel, 1974, and the Performance Pavilion was added in 1995. Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Arch. The arch was designed by a Hartford architect, George Keller. His ashes buried in the East Tower when he died in 1935, along with his wife who had died in 1946. Dedicated on September 17, 1886. Anniversary. 4,000 Hartford citizens who served in the Civil War, 400 who died for the Union, 128 African American residents of Hartford fought. Gothic monuments is made of brown stone from Portland, Connecticut. It cost about $60,000, the money coming from the city treasury, to build. Originally terracotta angels, Gabriel and Raphael, which were the crowns for the towers, but were replaced in 1987 with bronze replicas for $1.5 million. The State Capitol Building. Though it isn't part of Bushnell itself, the State Capitol cannot be ignored. Bushnell was created to provide a proper setting for this imposing building. In the year 1873, citizens of Connecticut voted to have Hartford as the only capital. Before that, Capitol had two buildings. One was the state legislature, alternating between New Haven and Hartford. The setting of the Capitol building was originally of the west side of Bushnell. Last minute, said by Dr. Bushnell, changed it to be where it is now. Architect for the Capitol building is Richard M. Maham.